Hello, today is the day of Techno and it is devoted to demonstration 1C products capabilities in real business cases. My name is Kairat and I am starting 1C ERP Techno Today you'll know more about manufacturing, finance and budgeting solution embedded in the product 1C ERP World Edition. I will demonstrate the business case of the production company and consider core processes and operations in the tractor manufacturing company. After a 10-minute coffee break, I will invite Andrei Mazarov on the stage. He is CFO of Divine Group, working in the wine retail and restaurant business. He will share with us how the company solved their business issues by implementing finance and accounting solutions of 1C ERP World Edition. Alexey Bobrovnikov, the head of 1C ERP Documentation and Support Service in CIS, will tell us about budgeting and treasury functionality and will give some useful advices for successful implementation of that subsystems. Please write your questions down in the chat window in Zoom conference. My colleague will help me to register all your questions. At the end of the Techno tracks, I will open questions and answer session for approximately 15 minutes. I will go through the list of questions and comment on them. Don't worry, the answers on those questions that we won't be able to answer due to time limits, we will send to you by email you mentioned in registration form. Okay, let me start with the illustration of manufacturing company in 1C ERP. For the case study, I chose the company that managed the business of tractor components manufacturing and tractor final assembly. The company specializes in two slightly different businesses. The first is selling customized tractors. The customer order specifies customer requirements that influence on production technology and choice of components that must be used during production run. Specific and unique components with a very long purchase cycle must be procured separately. It would be a one-off purchase order that must be referred to the sales order where we have specified all customer requirements. The purchasing manager may confuse, lose, or skip the list of components, so we have to provide him all the information through the process and supply chain. The second business is making the tractor only in basic configurations. Will apply to the make-to-stock production strategy for that business. The process starts from planned orders that are consolidated as the master production plan. Then production orders must be placed in accordance with the plan. All tractors produced go to the warehouse directly. And then a customer orders very basic configuration from the warehouse. I will start with the master data items, item variants, bills of materials, and then I will follow with sales order and production planning process. Both of them could be a source for placing production orders. Then I will get you through production and procurement operations. Let me show key catalogs related to material management. Go to catalog called item kind. An item kind manages certain items with the same attributes. Here you have to define key supply and procurement planning, financial, and many other policies that will regulate all transactions with all items included in the item kind. Go to Additional Attributes tab. In item kind, you are allowed to define additional attributes or item variants. On the left window, you can see a list of additional attributes relevant to item kind. Additional attributes are arbitrary fields that can be added to the card and can have any data format such as Boolean, a list of predefined items, an integer value, a float value, a string, even a particular item, and many other types of the data format could be defined as the additional attributes. We have defined the engine as a simple additional attribute system object. Item variant is a flexible tool for mixing various types of additional attributes in one variant. Let me show you how to manage item variants to the tractor item kind. When creating a new item kind, you need to click on Variants and select Common to this item kind option. For the tractor item kind, we will define limited item variants that are available for the item kind that are not available for the combines item kind. Check it. Go to Additional Attributes tab. On the right window you can see a list of additional attributes relevant to the item variants of item kind. For Boolean options regarding power takeoff equipment, the leather interior options, other options, and the end of the list, the fields for certain audio system from item catalog. Later you'll see how you can use this data in the bill of materials and production stages management. What else? I'd also like to tell you more about print templates. Go to the Name Template tab. In order to save time and to keep the style of naming of the item variant, we recommend to use corporate template settings. You can see that it looks like a formula and user-friendly to make your own settings. There are a list of attributes available and a list of operators. Okay, let me create a new item variant. It looked like questionnaire. Tick checkboxes in accordance with your customer requirements. So what you need is tick all the options of your product. Choose audio system. Give the name of the product variant. Click Save and Close, and a new item variant is created. Take a look at the list of item variants already created. I don't think it's a good idea to create all variants of a tractor. It makes sense to stop at most popular variants or create them by real cases. It's important to say that the system has an active uniqueness control of new creating items variants before recording. So don't worry, the system lets you know if you are trying to create the existing element. Let me go to item catalog and create a new one by copying existing. We need to enter the name tractor DT 560. Here the picture that is attached by the user. Here are many other attributes filled out automatically. We see that engine power is a required field with a certain format of data to be entered. Enter 560 ph. Post and close. The next catalog is a bill of materials or bill of resources. In one's ERP, bills of resources is a mix of bills of materials and bills of work. It appears as a flexible template that creates production stages based on additional attributes of the item variant. Whether it requires to make a seat using leather or velour, or it requires to install a certain model of audio system, we need to know it and reflect in manufacturing technology. Bill of resources allows you to save your time managing all changes in it because you need to change only this one template. Take a look at the major equipment of a tractor. There are cab, engine, power transfer, control mechanism, undercarriage system, working and auxiliary equipment. At the same time, the carriage system consists of a track system and a frame. Let me go to production, bill of resources, and copy the existing one BOM, and rename it. BOM includes the tab for main and side intermediate products to be released, the tab for raw materials, internal and external work, components, semi-finished products, the tab for labor work performed and its cost, and the final tab is production process. I will start with the list of materials and work for consumption and methods of receiving resources. It depends on a certain variance of the finished product items. The latter would be chosen if item variant of the finished product includes true or yes in Boolean field. Value would be chosen if it has false or no value. The next line is the audio system. It is exactly the item that was mentioned in the attributes of the item variant. So, instead of creating a number of BOMs, you only need to have a reference to the attribute of the item variant. And when you will generate production stages for the order, the system will automatically select the exact audio system. You may also see if the BOM in the BOM the lines of semi-finished products. In the first and the second lines in the material tab all those lines must be produced during different BOMs. The user needs to choose action produce and specify BOM. The ninth line on this slide on a screen, it is DT cap. Here it is a semi-finished products, and we need to get it during the final production stage. We expect to receive this material from the second stage and consume it in a final stage. Then look at the BOM tree. You can see all those equipment in hierarchical view or tree view. Here you can collapse or expand different levels on the product tree. At the top of the tree you can see the final product and its variants. Lower you can see the list of materials. The velour and audio system are components of a certain semi-finished product, cab. And quantity value is also available for analysis. Let's return to BOM. The labor cost tab is about general types of work performed by production team member. It looks like an employee activity time consumption plan. Let me go to the manufacturing process tab, where the certain stages and their sequences must be defined. The sequence mode can be one by one or in parallel. We have 4 stages: assembling, often the carriage platform, cab assembling, control mechanism setting, and final assembly. In general, all semi-finished products we produce in the first stage and use them as materials in the latest one, assembly stage. Okay, what else? You may print the BOM out for approval or for informing your customer. It allows you to compare it with other BOMs or other version of this type of BOM. In order to make it easier to maintain BOM, you can organize your BOM as a tree of several supporting BOMs and use them for production semi-finished products. And all these semi-finished products produce within the production order. It is a one-off production order management strategy. Due to this strategy, we have a long, comprehensive multi-stage production cycle from the raw materials to finished product. Couple words for another approach, the second one. The tractor can also be produced independently in different production orders. It is completely different production state management strategy when you weigh components directly from the stock and only then plan production separately from assembling. Let me start with the first step of the make-to-order scenario. At the very beginning, we need to place a sales order. Sales order, create. Choose customer, company, terms of sales, choose warehouse and delivery method. Go to the Goods tab and specify the required shipment date. Then open the wizard and select Items Ordered. Then create an item variant with all parameters ordered by customer. Let's say he ordered the following products options. Great. Choosing the created one. Then we specify the quantity and the price, take into account all selected product options. OK, move to the document and post it. Then, based on the sales order, we are directly placing the production order. All fields are filled out automatically. Here you can check it if the BOM has been selected correctly. Let me go to the link document form of another document. Here you'll see all previous and further transactions that are linked to the sales order. You can also get information about any of all past communication quotations issued to the client. Then you can get information about the production order and its production stages that were created based on sales order. The information about purchase order of unique and expensive raw materials and components that are procured separately for the sales order can also be shown here. The sales subsystem is the first source of the demand for production. Now we are turning to the second source of the demand, the planning subsystem. It is important to notice that companies also produce standard products and store them in the warehouse before sale. On operational planning level, such companies, instead of configuring unique customer orders, are compiling master production plans with limited numbers of specifications approved by sales and production executives for the very close planning period, traditionally starting from week to quarter, depending on production cycle duration. Go to the budgeting and planning, settings and catalogs, inventory planning scenarios. System supports multi-scenario planning. You can analyze several scenarios in the planning subsystem. The subsystem allows you to configure the flexible rules of plan data filling, for example, based on historic data from other scenarios, or you can derive from anywhere. Take a look at rules for sales forecast. This is a list of sources, period, filters. All those filters can be set really flexibly. You are also allowed to combine all these figures by formula. Let me open any other plan profile and see how it looks like. My today's scenario is not so sophisticated. As a result of the planning process, we have defined a number of items specified with BOMs for each planning period. For today, it's a master production schedule. Let me create it manually. Go to Budgeting and Planning, Production Plans, Create. Select Scenario. and then go to the Products tab. Some notes here. You are also allowed to import data from the external file or fill all tables manually. Open Wizard for selecting items. Find tractor basic configuration. Then set quantity 100 pieces. OK. Status confirmed. Post it. Open material demand for this plan and see the list and quantity required. Now we can use this plan for placing production orders. Open workplace for generation productions or production orders according to the plan. Specify the scenario, types of plan, period, company. Click next. To the order all the quantities, then create. Okay, done. Well done. Okay, now we have production orders placed. It doesn't matter if it's based on the sales order or based on production plans. We also have a reference BOM for the product in the production order. I'm going to open the workplace of a production dispatcher. Production order specifies an item and quantity to be manufactured. This is the custom-made order. This is a mass production order. Production stage is a transaction related to production order. It is base for production planning, for operational management, for material supply management, for cost management of output products, and it performs many other functions. It has a lot of handy tools for managing different transactions. Now we need to generate production stages. Go to Order Structure and click Generate. Then click in this button. It offers you to do other command in batch made. All of them are optional. You may skip them here and do them later. The very important option here is the first one. You can ask system to check if semi-finished items are in available stock right now. Use them and don't create stages for producing these semi-finished items. Generate. The system creates a tree of production stages using BOM data. You can open all production stages that have been generated in a background mode. Here you see production order, items, and quantity to be produced. To provide flexibility, the system allows you to change stages in this tree. Add new stage, add new resources. You're allowed to split and close the stage in some unhappy scenarios. Let's go to the production dispatcher workplace. It's called production order queue management. It helps to orchestrate all incoming production orders on an enterprise level, to plan or replan the enterprise production schedule, to track and to facilitate any issues in production that can influence the production schedule. The next step is production schedule. Let me show you how this scheduling workplace works. The running of the production schedule is a very sophisticated algorithm. It uses production data from production order, BOMs data, lead times of different types of resources supply, material, work centers and equipment. It calculates the fastest length of time for release of required products based on priority of production orders, real current availability of resources, and expected lead times of supply and expected availability of work centers. Then the closest possible release date compares with the delivery date. Let me check if we have set the planning backward option in your production order. Okay. Click Plan button. The planning tool allows you to calculate real schedule for execution as well as model scenario schedule with selected isolated assumption. Say, what if we are able to work 24 hours 7 days a week? What if we have all materials available in stock? What if we have unlimited work centers? And other options for analysis. It allows you to identify the precise place of bottleneck factor in order to find the effective corporate scale decision to meet the required date of production release. Click Plan. There is a result of calculation, production order schedule. It requires 22 days for execution if we take a real situation into account. The diagram also shows us the model or ideal schedule, and in comparison with the required by order, the model schedule would take 16 days in 24 hours 7-day assumption. Save the schedule. Return to production order queue management workplace. You will see the exact start and completion dates for each production stage of different production orders. Open Report Production Schedule. The schedule has 3 types of presentation for different uses. Take a look on this on the screen. This one shows the time slots loaded by shop floors. The second one is about sequence of products and semi-products release dates. And the third one is about exact equipment and employees' time slots occupied. Now, every production unit and work centers of enterprise know what, when, how much items they are going to produce for the near future and which resources they need for each production stage. Then we transfer this schedule to the shop floor level to plan detailed operations in order to execute the enterprise master schedule. Let me open a stage dispatching workplace that is designed for shop floor managers. He is provided with the tools that help him to manage production stages, to release new stages, to move it forward by process, to show any issues in stage by icons, to see current dynamic updating status, or to print out a production job form. Once ERP provides different supply variants, make or buy options, stock replenishment, and so on. You are allowed to use material demand that is assigned to sales order, to production stage, or to line of business. The supply forecast workplace allows you to see in one place the cross-enterprise material demand and current state of supply. Here you can filter it by warehouse, manager, items, or find certain order you want to analyze. Here you see the demand triggered by particular production stages, material items, and its variants, units of measure, quantity, deadline, and place for supply, and other useful information. In general, this tool shows current state for tracking. But here you can see a button for reserving materials for the order. It makes sense only for some specific business scenarios. On this supply schedule, you'll see how gradually all these lines change their color, reflecting the supply process. Gray lines out of stocks, yellow stock is partially available, and green when stock is enough for order demand. Let me drill down to the production stage. All supply commands are located in the Supply tab. Here we specify an item, a quantity, a warehouse, the delivery date. Then the procurement manager would see all these items and quantity in the supply forecast workplace. Placing purchase orders can be done by two variants: advanced procurement strategy and emergency purchasing. In rare business cases, let me say one-off components procurement or emergency procurement, managers can create a purchase order manually or directly from the production stage. The main or happy scenario is when procurement manager orchestrates with purchase orders based on all sources of the demand on the enterprise level, such as sales orders, release production orders and stages, repair orders, and other external and internal sources. The solution for that is a workplace called generation of orders based on demand. It helps procurement managers to generate any kind of orders based on demand, as well as purchase orders. Procurement manager generates purchase lots due to supply methods. Using contracted supply terms, standard lead times, based on date required procurement time frames, matching them with suppliers. This scenario is based on the idea that we already have all contracts signed with our vendors, and this process is performed before placing our purchase orders. On the first page of Wizard, you'll need to specify criteria like warehouse, line of business, category, and so on, in order to filter demand for processing. On the second page, you need to add items and quantities to the basket and to allocate items by vendors. The result of the solution is a list of purchase orders in draft status. Then you need to fill in prices due to terms of purchase. Then to specify deadlines for the delivery. Save. Okay. Order fulfillment state dashboard shows us item lines on the production stages becoming green because we are expecting all items to be delivered soon. In a real-time mode, you can track the status of supply of the demand. To eliminate human factors in a case of procurement issues, once ERP notifies the production dispatcher and offers him to recalculate or update the production schedule. So that is how procurement system give immediate feedback into production system in a real-time manner. Let me skip the steps of purchase order processing, delivery note, payments. Due to the standard procure to pay process, we need to create a good receipt note if we are using warehouse management system, if not only a vendor invoice. Look at our picture of order fulfillment state dashboard. Now we see that our item lines of production stages became completely green because we already have all the materials available in our warehouse. The next part of the scenario is performing production operations and inventory movements. Let me drill down to the production stage. Here we see that these materials are ready to be shipped. Then we are asking the procurement manager to ship all these materials today. Okay, we're receiving the materials. Then we're consuming them and releasing finished products and creating a document transfer of products from production based on reference. On the labor tab, we can record time consumed by teams or employees. And then we are creating employee output for the period based and based on data from production stage, and calculate hourly paid labor cost that can be used for as a salary for further process. When we have finished with the production stage, we need to close it. Let me show you warehouse reports as a result of transaction. Here we see all materials consumed, all finished products released. We finished with the main scenario. Now I'd like to stress on functionality that is very important for ERP class solutions in international business practice. I'm talking about audit trail requirements. Mistakes can be identified in the system after month closing. In this case, you are allowed only to create amending a transaction in order to track all important changes in the system data. You have two options for tracking changes. The first one allows you to reverse transactions completely. The second one allows you to post new one and post new values. You are allowed to make unlimited attempts to record these changes of the initial transaction. I will show you how it works in the system. This tool will help our customer to follow fast month close methodology. Accountants don't need to wait for original documents before month close date. They can record amended transactions in the next period. We are going to support this functionality for all businesses transactions. In today's release, our customers are able to track changes for more than 70 popular transactions. Most of them are financial documents, such as invoices, inventory consumptions, transfer of goods to production, release of finished products, and so on. Let me show how it works. Go to Master Data and Settings, Financial Result and Controlling, and tick checkbox for enabling track changes. Then go to Master Data and Settings, Users and Rights Settings, Period and Closing Dates, and set the date of blocking data, say previous day. In this case, no one can repost transactions from yesterday date or earlier. Please give access to change transactions in the past only for certain users, say period end accounting managers. Okay, how it works. Open any document. Create based on its document. Click Adjustment. Change data, let's say price, and post it. Then take a look at register records. You see the reverse entry of initial data and posting of new data. Let me repeat the same steps. Create based on, click Adjustment, change data, quantity, and post it again. Let's look at register records. You see the reverse entry of initial data and posting of new data. Return to the initial document. You see here the list of adjustment documents. Then let me cancel the document by posting reverse transaction. Click Create based on, click Reverse transaction, and just post it. Let's look at register records, and you see the reverse entry only. That is everything that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much. Now coffee break is starting. See you at Q&A session with me, and have a nice day.
Good day. My name is Alexey Bobrovnikov, and now I'm going to tell you about budgeting and treasury subsystem capabilities in one ERP World Edition application. The objectives of budgeting and financial planning are forecast of enterprise financial performance, forecast results in what-if scenarios, variance analysis abilities, KPI and monitoring system in enterprise performance dashboard, targeting on increasing of profitability of the company. Budgeting is a module in one ERP application. It provides forecasting of financial statements, different budget models options, budget preparation process, after filling of budget forms, and other solutions. Let me show you the planning levels in a company. Enterprise strategy is the top level of planning. It has planning horizon of 5 and more years. Strategic, mid-term, and short-term planning are the budgeting level with different analytical dials and periods. Operational and order level plannings are the operational level of inventory planning. Here are the planning tool for these levels. Enterprise strategy developed outside the system, but all other levels are covered by the functionality of the system. We have all needed documents in our application in budgeting and inventory planning module. And for the order level planning, we have wide variety of different types of order. The financial indicators and KPIs can be shown in performance dashboard as different charts. Let's see what the budget and budgeting is. The budget is a plan of financial indicators of a company, like income, expenses, assets, and other, in a period interval, year, quarter, month, maybe week. Budgets are corporate tools that represent financial plans and forecasts for future operations. They are used for planning, monitoring, and measuring the performance of a company. The budgeting approach in a business process of a company are bottom-up, top-down, and two-way approach. Top is the high level. The top managers define consolidation reports and global targets on the level. Bottom is the level for end users, like to-do scenarios. The middle and low-level management and the employees with their local targets are on this level. The 1C ERP supports all of these approaches. Let's see what the budgets consist of, the building blocks of budgeting. First of all, it needs to say that usually budgeting is accounted in Excel without any automation tool and system. Major part of budgeting users are familiar with abilities of Excel, so we designed our solution looks like Excel. Here there are different types of tables, different position of dimension and budget item in them. But we can see common types of these blocks of the tables. Dimension, period, budget flow item, budget balance item, amount, scenario, formula, derived item, and all the budgeting blocks for this. And we made them in the 1C ERP as master data elements. Here is a budgeting architecture scheme. A budgeting model is a container of the budget forms and reports. We do budget profiles which describe the hierarchy of budget items and dimensions. Then we create the budget entry forms with plan data, and we have data for budget reports and plan fact analysis. Another interesting scheme is the scheme of budget balancing model principles. Here we can see the balance indicators with connecting them through transactions. The principles of double entry is observed. Some value from one element of balance goes to another element. So our budgeting user uses balance indicators as the budget balance items and a flow transaction as the budget flow item. Let's talk about budgeting implementation approach. The approach depends on the scope of the business requirements for the budgeting. A simple model provides only cash flow statements for the spending limits of cash. A full-scale model provides complex and closed system of mutually connected budgets. And of course, our ERP application provides balanced options between simple and complex models. Here we can see the scheme of example for the complex budgeting model with balance sheet at the end of the budgeting process. All the rectangles are the budget forms with links between each other. In the real enterprise implementation, the budgeting model can consist more than 50 budgets form or more. Let me go to the application and show you the master data and some settings in the budgeting subsystem of 1C ERP World Edition. First of all, we need to enable a budgeting subsystem. To do it, go to Master Data and Settings menu, then choose Budgeting and Planning. Here you can see these settings. The inventory planning options are also placed here. Disable budgeting or inventory planning if it is needed. Then I will show you the settings and catalogs of the budgeting subsystem. Let me go to the menu called Budgeting and Planning. This panel consists the main catalogs of master data of budgets. Let me show you the budgeting model settings. Here is the model list. We can use several budgeting models at the same time. Budgeting model includes budget profiles and the budgeting process route and cash flow limit settings. The model describes the period and using of analytic planning by companies or by business units, and it includes option for approve budget entry form documents. Take a look at the budget flow item list. The budget items are not belong to particular budgeting model. They are common for all budgeting models. The planned data is also common for all budgeting models. It allows to use different models by time to time with common data. Budget flow item is a budget analytic designed for planning flow or business operation and displaying in budget reports. Budget entry forms requires entering data by budget flow items. Budget items have several analytical dimensions. The same view is in other budget items. All of them has 6 dimensions and some options like a currency mode and others. Let me show you what the budget item dimension is. The budget item dimensions are analytical sections for budget flow or balance or non-financial items, which are detailed with planned and actual data. Dimensions can be of various types: goods, cash flow items, partners, and others. It makes sense to plan in the dimensions what are in transactions. Otherwise, you can get plans, but you can't collect actual data reports, because actual data has no such dimensions in it. Let's see what the budget balance item in a scheme. Budget balance item is a budget analytic designed for planning balance and displaying in budget reports. It is determined as opening balance from actual balance sheet statement plus turnovers by budget flow items. Systems gets opening balance from actual data and adds to them amount from flow items which are connected to this balance item. So we have a planning close balance amounts. Let's see the other budget items types. We have non-financial item. It is useful for situation when you need to set data like coefficients and other non-financial indicators. For example, number of employees, number of stores, customer satisfaction ratio, prices, and others. These coefficients are described by frequency of using and lifetime period. They can be calculated manually or get by custom query. Other budget item is derived item. It is an element of the budget profile structure that contains calculated indicators based on a formula. The sources of amount for calculation can be budget flow or balance item and non-financial items. Budgeting helps companies to forecast their financial states in a short or long-term perspective. We need some assumption for forecasting. It needs to assume future exchange rates and sales turnovers. We need the global dimensions to keep the data in this what-if mode. For that purpose, we use a budgeting scenario. It allows you to use different scenarios of plans depending on interval or external factors. And it allows you to have optimistic or pessimistic scenario, for example. Now we are ready to use all of this master data of budgeting to create a budget form for planning and use them as a report in the same time. This is a budget profile. It is a catalog element. Budget profile is a template for hierarchical structure of budget items. Other elements, structure of the budget report and entry form. The last one element of budgeting we need to know is the document budget entry form. Budget entry form is a document with a form of entering data for the certain budget profile, budgeting scenario, company, and business unit. With budget entry form, you can create budget turnovers for the plan amounts. Now let's see all of these features in the application. Go to Budgeting and Planning settings and catalogs, and then open the budget profiles list. The list is opening with budgeting model filter. Let me create new one and show you how is simple for modeling. Firstly, we need to enter the name of for the budget. Let it be cash flow. Then we need to choose the type of profile. Will it be for entering data or only for report? Checkbox use to enter plan is for it. Planning method, fixed period or rolling planning. Period of budgeting can be from day to year. Let it be by default, month. Then go to the budget structure. From the left side we can see the list of the elements for design. There are items, dimensions, and other. We can place title to the clear form to the right. Use drag and drop for it. It is simple to do. Let me name it Cash Flow 2. Here we can use some parameters for template records. Let's choose reporting period. When it places it like a code, string on Russia code. Because the code in 1C ERP is still on Russian, but we are working at translation of the code too, and it will be on English someday. Well, now set a new table in the right part from the left. Here we see three types of table. It depends on how we want to place budget items in the table, in the rows, in the columns, or as a complex table. Let me add the budget flow item from basic model cash flow tree to the rows, and then add a month period to columns. Now we will see more details about budgeting items at the right part. Just click on the item in structure. We can rename it and drill down to item and see the dimensions there. We can set method of filling data to this item manually or by budgeting data. Then place dimension cash flow item to the structure. We can place it to columns or rows. The dimensions may have fixed value list, or it would be defined in entry form later. We can drag and drop elements in structure of a budget form. We can preview a template of a report and set some colors and fonts in order to change its design. To do that, click Appearance Setting. We are allowed to select cells and to change appearance here by right mouse click. Let me save our profile and check it. Here is two buttons for it. Create entry form and View Report. Let me create new budget entry form. While we are creating profile, we can preview document form from budget profile. But in the default business scenario, the document should be created from the document list or from a budget process task. Set scenario, company and business unit there. And go to budget panel. Here we see table of the budget. We can add new dimension from the list. Let's choose operating activity and find here payment for purchase of materials. And add one more cash flow item. Find the payments for goods purchase item. Now we are ready to set plan data. Just enter new amounts in the cells. We can use context menu to copy value to the cell or add some note to describe the amount to approval person. And then we are ready to press pause and close button of the entry form. Now let me generate the budget report. Choose the scenario, currency and period and press generate. And we can see the amount which we placed before. Then drill down to the source document from the report cell. Just click on the amount. The trial balance report opens automatically. Let me drill down to the recorder. Here we can see the source document with the value. And we can open it by click on its name. And we came back to the document which we did before. It's an advantage of our system to drill down to the source document from any report. Let me come back to presentation and show you the scheme of data source for the budget items. Data sources are defined by types of budget items. You are allowed to define existing data structure as data source for budget flow item, budget balance item, and non-financial items. The custom query is also available as a data source for them. Derived item calculates using all kinds of budget items, so it can aggregate all data sources together. The data source for budget items are financial accounting, the data from charts of accounts, operational accounting, the data from business transactions, inventory plans, other budget items themselves. Here we must stop and talk about ability of our system to use some different accounting of financial accountings. They can be local accounting by national standards, management accounting by enterprise standards, and international accounting by IFRS standards. If you need more than one chart of accounts, then you need to set multiple charts of accounts options to on mode, and then create all charts of account you need. All of this accounting can be data source for budgeting. Actual data query rules is workplace for calculation of actual data by budget items using different data sources. There are two approaches how to define the actual data query rules. The first starts from budget items. We choose item and then create data source for it. The second starts from data source. We choose the source and then set item for it. Let's see the form actual data query rules in real application. Go to Budgeting and Planning, Settings and Catalogs, and open then the actual data query rules. Here we can switch between mode of using by budget items or by data sources. In by budget items mode, we see the list of flow and balance items. And in by data sources mode, we see the sources. Operational accounting turnovers is source for budget flow items. It is business transactions list. Operational accounting balance is source for budget balance item. It is assets and liabilities items list. And financial accounting is ledger chart of accounts for budget flow and balance items. For any string in this workplace, we can create a rule to collect data to the item from the source. Double-click on the item and press Create button. The rule has different settings to get value and mapping dimension from source data to budget item. Now we are returning to my slides and I will tell you about important part of budgeting for large companies with many users of budgeting subsystem. It is not enough to set up all forms for input and reports. The budgets have links and sequences between each other. So we need to use budgeting preparation process in a company to reach success in planning. The budgeting preparation process gives us organization and coordination of the process of budgeting tasks for specific performers. Budgeting process is a loop of steps. The steps define the action to be performed. The following actions can be performed: entering operational inventory plan, entering in budget entry form, approval of the budget, setting the limits of cash flow, and others. Here is a scheme of the cycle of a budget process. We start from targets and go to budget forms. Then we keep the first version and make adjustment documents when it must be changed. And at the end of planning period, we make variance analysis and go on to start new cycle of budgeting to the next period. Now let's see budgeting preparation process in the application. Go to budgeting and planning, setting and catalogs, and open then the budgeting model, basic model. The budgeting process road is a part of budgeting model. Setting of budgeting process road is creating hierarchical description of sequentially or simultaneously performing steps. Here are some groups of steps in them that describe the process. The system allows you to automatically repeat the process and define its frequency. The step defines the template of settings for task to user. Here we can see some of these settings. Who is assigned to the task, the system itself or a user? The duration and the certain actions of the task. Tasks after their creation from the steps allow you to quickly perform the action and drill down to the budget entry form document or start budget report to control the data of planning. In approval task, you can view the budget entry form and the summary budget reports that it affects. The budget process can be run from budgeting and planning menu as a document by budgeting model steps. It shows the status of all steps. Budgeting process chart is the interactive report that draws diagram of Gantt. We can see the current status of the budgeting task as a plan fact chart in this report. We use some settings for it. The second part of this presentation is the Treasury management in 1C ERP World Edition. Treasury is a department responsible for management cash resources. Its functions: Operational management of the financial flows, organization of relationships with banks and other financial institutes, control over the company's financial and cash gaps, financial risk management, its goals, financial support of the activities of other departments, minimization of financial risks and operating expenses, maximizing the result of investments for available financial resources. The treasury management in our system consists payment request documents, cash forecasts like as interactive report form, cash flow limits control option, and financial instruments for save and earn money. Here is a scheme of payment request workflow. Due to main scenario, initiators who apply for payment need to create a payment request and specify future payment due date. System performs limit control, and then the payment request can be approved or not approved. When the treasury allocated amount by accounts as sources for the payment and then creates a payment issue note. Let's talk about cash forecast features. It shows daily cash balances and gaps. It shows planned issues and receipts. It allows you to move requests forward and backward between bank accounts and by days. Undo and redo options help you to track all user actions with payment requests. It's helped to get a simulation of scenarios and return to main scenario. Cash forecast has flexible grouping of user interface elements in workplace and in the reports. Now let me show you the payment request and cash forecast abilities in 1C ERP. Firstly, we need to close all panels from last demonstration. Just click Close All button in context menu. When we go to Master Data and Settings menu, then choose Treasury and Settlements and see options for cash forecasting. As we see, the payment request options is enabled. It is the main options to use payment requests and cash forecasts. If you do not need the cash management and forecasting, just disable it. When we go to Treasury menu and open payment request list, the business transaction for payment can be different. We see the list of transactions in Create button. Let me create the new one with payment to vendor. The company and business units are set automatically. Set the payment date to some future date and set the payment type from any to bank account. Then choose bank account. User has to set recipient to pay. Let it be vendor alpha. Set the amount to pay and then go to payment explanation panel. Here we need to choose payment object. The cash flow item would be set by default value specified in the contract. Let's check the contract states. We can drill down from document to any object by pressing Open button in the field. Here is the contract record. Go to Accounting Information panel and see the cash flow item by default value. Let's return to payment request form. We are ready to post and close the document. The status of the request is still not approved. Let me show you how the treasurer can approve the payment request. The system has workplace for it. Treasury requests for approval. Here is our new payment request. Click Approve a Request button. You can also press Reject Requests, but for seeing example of cash forecast, we will press Approve button. We can hide the approved request by setting status filter. Look at the list only to approve mode, choose not approved. The filter panel will be helpful when number of requests is big. If the treasurer wants to approve only high priority requests, he needs to set priority filter. Look at our new payment request in cash flow form. Open Treasury and cash forecast. We can see the amount of our request by due date in cash outflow is not allocated line. If we click there, we will see detail in bottom part of the form. He will look at the payment request and can drill down to it. Bank account what we set in a request list is the wished account for pay, but Treasury can think else. He can check cash gap in the bank accounts per days. Then press for payment button and it set auto allocation for requests. The wished bank account will be priority. Let me click button. Here we see the request is now in bank account line. The cash forecast form has three modes of view. Request to cash forecasts. We can drag and drop requests by day and bank accounts, which undo and redo abilities. Cash forecast and requests by day. Click by day and see all requests and scheduled payments in it. And requests list method, and this is a simple list for payments. Look at the settings of cash forecasts. There are more actions and settings. Here we can adjust the display mode of scheduled payments from orders and contracts and set other options. Let's come back to presentation and see other abilities. Some more features of cash management in a company are tool for transfer, deposit and lending cash. Transfer request for payment between payment dates and accounts. Splitting request for payments by payment dates and accounts. Transfer of cash between accounts within company. Transfer of cash between companies. Currency conversions. Managing external financials of loan money to cover gaps in cash. Let me tell you about features of the cash flow limit control in 1C ERP. Determination of different time fans of limits. Day, weeks, decades, month, quarter, half year, year. Flexible limit analytics by partners, by contracts, and by other analytics. You can set a total limit for the cash flow item and additional limits for the other analytics. Here is a scheme that shows how cash flow limits map to each other. Example of a possible relationship between limits of different dimensions and periods. All of these limits will work together. Budget limit control can be informative, non-blocking or blocking, but stops any cash issues. Another view of cash flow limits control. Here is a visualization scheme of amount limits by different dimensions. How system react on an axis of limits by different types. Let me go to the application and see how cash flow limits works. As usual, we go to Master Data and Settings menu, check Options in Treasury and Settlements, Cash Forecastings. Now we see at Limits Usage options. It can be not used. The limits are disabled. By document of cash flow limits. The simplified approach for settings limits by posting special documents. Limits can be only per month and cash flow items and without any additional options. And by budgeting data, the full-scale approach of setting limits. We choose the budget by budgeting data mode and close form. The settings of the limits is located in the budgeting model. Let's go to the budgeting and planning menu and settings and catalogs. Open budgeting model list, choose model for limits and go there to cash flow limits tab. Here is the list of budget flow items with their options for limits. You can define here frequency, scenario, limit type for information only or for permitting. The hierarchy of dimensions from budget flow items to check in payment requests. The budget flow item must have actual data query rules for collect data from cash transactions. Earlier, we did budget entry form and payment request, and they are already in cash flow limits control scheme. Look at the report cash flow limits. The report can be generated from this workplace or from report panel or from payment request. Here we can see some amount and drill down to the source documents of them. Let me try. In this detailed report, we see the document what we created before. Let me open the payment request and make copy of it. Click More Actions, Copy. Set new date and edit amount to exceed the limits. Let me try to post the document. Oh, we have received an error and a message log. The cash limit control works. We are allowed to set other limits options to post the document. Let me do it. And now let me return to the report again. Click Report, Cash Flow Limits from this document. Now we see the other limits amount and percentage of it in a report. Let me sum up the abilities of budgeting and treasury in 1C ERP World Edition. The application has flexible implementation options of budgeting models, simple or full scale. Budget process management, bottom up, top down or two-way. Reference to operational planning. Cash flow limits control at the payment request. Cash forecast. Rolling planning. Flexible visualization of budget reports. Drill down to the source documents. Enterprise performance dashboard and more other options. This is everything what I want to tell you about 1C ERP World Edition today. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Alexey. And now we start the Q&A session. If you asked a question earlier, the speakers will definitely answer it. And if you have questions during the session, write them in the chat now or unmute yourself and we will answer them along the way. So let's start. The first question is for Kairat. How the feature will behave in case of further documents in the chain. For example, there is a sales order with a further document like sales order cancellation, and we are trying to make a correction for the sales order. So, Kairat, please answer.
Hello? Do you hear me? Well,
Yes, I think
Ksenia?
everything is okay. Yes, I hear you.
Okay, great. Pavlo, thank you for the question. Talking about your your case regarding sales order correction adjustments. First of all, I should start with the scope of this functionality. Right now, we support this audit trail only for those documents that are related to GL postings. So we're talking about financial documents. There it's our first stage of this project. But our registers, I mean, all those technical, in a technical ground, we adapted all registers. I'm talking about the managing accounting registers as well as the jail accounting registers for this audit trail, and adding new documents for this new feature is just a question of the um, necessity of particular project, and it's easily can be added. So the discussion about adding this I'm talking about the operational documents into the standard release of once ERP is just right now we are discussing this problem, and I think we will add the sales order and as well as purchase order as documents for this audit trail. So it's regarding regarding to your case. Talking about the behavior of the system, how they react on the reverse and reverse corrections. So in this case, I would like to divide this question on three parts. First part is if we're talking about the inventory. You might know that in our system there is a control of inventory of control of minus stocks on a warehouses. So in this case, you are not be able to reverse the any documents regarding the receipt on a warehouse if these stocks would be consumed during the period. So you need to go to the document down on this chain. I'm talking about the consumption or some movements between warehouses, and you need to reverse this one document and then go to the previous one in order to reverse it, and as well as previous and previous and previous. So you need to follow this rule. The second part, if we're talking about the such invoices and some other documents regarding the other, we called it other assets and like services that are not relevant to the inventory. In this case, you are allowed to reverse the initial documents. In this case, in a new month, you will have the negative or minus on the cost that should be allocated on the cost controlling or cost accounting objects and would be allocated on those new objects. So that's in general, that is the behavior of the system. And the third one, if we're talking about those documents that influence on accounts payables, accounts receivables. In this case, you also allowed to reverse or to cancel the initial documents. In this case, the system reacts like if these documents, I mean, for example, if we have accounts receivable and our client paid for this for our invoice, and then we make a storn or just reverse our sales document. In this case, the system takes all the money that our client paid and treat it as an advance payment. The same situation if we're talking about the accounts payable, or yes, payable. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you, Kairat. The next question is for Alexey. Is the local chart of accounts predefined? Please, Alexey, as I saw you answered this in chat, but you wanted to show us something.
Yes, good day to everyone. Now I try to show my screen and answer, and I will answer this question the system. First of all, we need to set multiply financial accounts because without these options we have only one chart of account, and it can be empty and set new accounts in it. But if we want to use some accounts, we need to set these options and add new account, local, and set some options for it and use FRS. So in settings and catalogs charts of account, we will have two options of chart of accounts. We have empty account and need to import it or create account by account. And the other questions about periodical and budget sources for data. The answer is we need to set date of using one chart of account and second chart of account. With the date we want to start. We set date from 1st January, for example, and use this local chart of account from this date. But we need to set new rules to create financial transactions, and then we need to set budgeting actual data query rules for this source. The new chart account will be here. Now we see the FRS, it was here before, and the new account local, it's empty now because we didn't import it yet. But if it will be here, and we will need to set new rules for it, like for this account, create, find the account and create rule for it. So it's all what I want to say now. Now the third questions about approval, two pair of eyes approval. Let's see again. Let's see again my screen. We have no extended approval module in the ERP World Edition. In the Russian version, we use integration with document instrument to create business process in the system.
Alexey, talking about the solution that called enterprise content management, ECM. In Russian is один из документооборот. So we're right now, once ERP World Edition, it doesn't have this integration right now because the problem is just some insights. The problem is technical. We are right now trying to translate our code. In the same time, we need to adapt the code for the English on the English language, all those integration solutions with the documentoоборот or with the enterprise content management. So right now we're discussing with our colleagues, and I think in the near future we are going to have this integration.
Thank you, Kairat. So in ERP World Edition, we have only simple approval model. It's the status of a document, for example, payment request or a sales order or etc. The document which has its own status. We can start. Some business process task with simple business process scheme. Someone need to do this task and someone can check this task. Only two steps. The more extended business process needs to be done in external system now. That's all for third questions, and the other it's not to me. Kairat, can you answer the other questions, please?
The question is there a business process to improve costs according to customizable rules, amount and cost center? What cost you mean? Are we talking about maybe, as I understand this question is regarding the budget control when we are approving costs? So we're approving the purchase order or we're approving any other purchases? Sorry, just the author of this question is...
she said that
Yevka.
It's about payment and purchases.
About payment, because
payment
costs
and purchases.
Because costs mainly it's about the cost management. So I don't really understand.
For payment and purchase orders, we have the same approval model like I shown it before. For the cost, we have no approval. It's master data for automatically close month. So we need to approve in master data settings. Then it will be in the system the first time.
I just add some comments regarding it. In each document that related to the cost, I mean, for example, the vendor invoices or other just maybe consumptions, all those documents have the functionality like checking by financial controller, who check if all the financial analytics are filled correctly. So we're talking about the expense item or the dimension of the expense item, but it's mainly about the financial discipline. Can you, Alexey, show this check by the accountant? Проверка. Проверено там кем-то в документе. В инвойсе. Каком-нибудь.
Kurch invoice. You talk about green.
Yes.
It's in Russian only version. You
Only in
need
Russian.
to set the checked document before, and we will have the special button in any document to check it before they will be posted in financial account, like this button.
Yes, like this.
This
Okay,
button is not in ERP World Edition yet, but we think about to add it here.
Okay, it's very interesting functionality, and I think it maybe should be reconsidered to add. In general, it could be one functionality that can use for controlling, for checking the correctness of all the financial analytics. Okay, let's go to the next question. Is it possible to set a deviation for approved costs? It means that the cost could be changed within the deviation and would require additional proof. So also about cost. I remember that all those deviation could be set for warehouse and inventory management when you have, for example, 100 tons of something, let's say asphalt, and when you're receiving, you can set some deviation. Because the fact could differ from the plan. So in this case, we have those control for deviation of units of measure for materials and stock. Talking about the cost, so maybe I suppose it's regarding the also the budget control or some deviation between the budgeted cost and the actual cost. So Alexey, can you comment on the deviation, how they could be analyzed, the actual cost and the budgeted cost?
Yeah, it can be analyzed in a budgeting report, and we create a plan and actual data columns and compare them by items, for example, or we have
Alexey, we don't hear you now. Kairat,
Alexey?
do you hear Alexey?
No, I don't hear. You have some problems with the audio, with mic.
Alexey?
In general, he is talking about the reports that where you can track in online mode the actual and the budgeting sum of the cost that you are going to.
Do you hear me?
Have.
I didn't hear you, Kairat.
We're here now.
Yes. Hello.
Oh,
Do you hear us?
I didn't hear anything. It's strange. I can reconnect now to the section. Sorry.
Okay. Maybe we can move on to the next question and then answer it again.
The next question is from Marina. What about cost roll-up in product bills of materials? And can you show us how product cost roll-up is maintained? Okay, the good question. As I understand, Marina asked us to show in the interface. Right now, only Alexey have opened the solution. But in general, yeah, sure. The structure, we have a special reports for this. Okay, the good idea that starts from the bills of materials. Our bills of materials is more extended than their commonly known bills of materials, because we right now have not only materials but also the works, also some works, labor costs, and some external services, and so on. And when we add all those components of the finished products, in this case, we have a expected structure of the cost, but it's or planned. These bills of materials could be used for defining the standard product cost, when we can use bills of materials as well as some overheads by norms, by some standards for fixed variable cost, some standards for fixed and variable overheads. So it's about the planning, it's not about the actual. When we use all those BOM for production, for manufacturing, then we consume different resources, times of our employees. And as a result, we have the picture about the structure of the... Alexey, hello, right now, do you hear us?
Now I hear you, and how about
We
me?
hear you too.
Oh,
okay.
Great.
It's my technical problem.
The next, our colleague asked us to show the structure of a product, of finished product. Can you please just take some time and find in the production the product's structure of any kind of product in your database, and I continue to production manufacturing reports. And product cost tree on the right, or actual product cost. It's you need to. Okay, here we will see at the top the product or product item. Then on the lower level, you would see the semi-products that you use for this product, as well as on the same level other materials that you have bought. It is like in a row.
Once.
So talking about the column, on a column you'll see the components of the cost. If it's additional costs, or I mean initial cost, or additional cost, or allocated fixed variables, or allocated or fixed overheads and variable overheads. And so this could be a structure made of the direct materials. Okay, if Alexey wouldn't have
we have no data.
No data. Okay.
I have example only for financial.
Marina, we can just talk to you in a separate session. For example, we know your email, and we will send you the invitation to talk just for meeting, and we will show you how it works. In general, just for all our participants, just we have those functionality, how to analyze, how to roll up all the cost by cost elements, by types of cost, by their components. I mean, the main product, semi-finished product, some even wasted wastes, and other components, as well as some times consumed by by our employees. Okay.
Let's move on. The next question is from Rosen Stemenov. When you plan to publish version 2.5.6 of ERP World Edition?
Right now, the version 2.5.6 is preparing for the publishing, and I just received information from developers. They're going to publish before the end of the January. So, but if you want to see to take a look on the functionality, you can ask us right now for demo or beta versions, and for official public versions. So expect it before the end of this month.
Okay. Thank you, Kairat. If you have more questions, you can unmute yourself and ask it by the voice, or as the previous, write them in the chat.
Okay, I can add some more regarding the question of Rosen. We also just preparing the release notes where we explain new features, new new functionality. So it's also the part of the publishing. So that's why we need some time for before official publishing. Okay. Just for participants, if you're hesitate, you can ask us in Russian. So we will translate the question to our colleagues and answer on Russian. Don't worry. Коллеги, можете спрашивать на русском, если так удобнее. Соответственно, мы переведем коллегам и также ответим на английском языке.
Okay, let's wait for a couple of minutes. Thank you too for your questions. Okay, I think that's all. If there is no questions,
maybe our colleagues, our partners have some information for sharing with us about their plans of regarding One ERP WE. Have they seen? Have they looked at One ERP WE? I mean, World Edition. What their experience of working with this solution, what their just plans. Maybe somebody wants to take a word just to share with us, or some feedback regarding the quality of our solution, regarding some questions about materials, references, and other questions. Sure, feel free.
Kairat. Hi. Hello, everyone. So actually, I have the same questions about your plans of HR module. Did it change, or what's your plan now?
Good question. Thank you, Anna. In general, right now, this really the hot potato for us, because we hear about this functionality from almost all countries except the Europe countries, because in general in Europe there's some the more widely used practice when companies use some services for HR calculation, for payroll calculation, then they use integration with ERP solutions. So for other countries like EMEA or MEA or maybe I don't know, in Latin countries, they are expect from us to from each ERP class solution to have HR module. And right now we don't have any solution for international market. And right now, once the ZUP or once the HR solution is hardly specified, specific for only for Russian legislation, and just the creating once the HR. It's a quite big project for us, and it requires just creating it from the scratch. So using this case, I ask everybody of you who are interested in HR module to send us this scenario, the real requirements for your countries, for your specific clients, to send us the requirements. I mean, the scope of the solution, the business practices from your region, because just let me say that we don't want to take the Russian solution and to create or delocalize and to use it for international market. We know that international market are more developed than our solution, and maybe some ideas is more modern right now, and we want to create just not create, but consider this project based on the current requirements, modern requirements, and based on requirements from different countries. So in this case, you would help us to get to collect the information, collect the request from you in one basket, and to discuss it with our head, I mean top managers, about this solution and your requests. So as a resume, my resume is please send me to me. I'm just I can send here my email. Send me the real cases, the real scope of HR module that is fit for your market. So I'm not talking about the your client. I'm talking about the just wide best practice for your market. Because, for example, for one country, there is enough to have only HR module. For other countries, it's very necessary to have a payroll also. So please specify all those requirements to us, and we will just consider it and just collect all those requirements, and we're going to form the future solution for HR module and payroll too, maybe. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Kairat. Small question, what is about an access to 1C conference where we discuss in 1C ERP World Edition?
I think it's more just the question for narrow part of this conference. I will answer privately to you about the access to conference. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Marina, you unmuted yourself. Maybe you want to ask a question?
No, not the moment.
Okay, thank you. So it's the last chance to ask something. Okay, I think we can finish this session. Thanks everyone for taking part in our partner summit and in this session. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.